Hello, I came by to my grandson was baptized at your church last Sunday, so I came along. And when I came, I saw your Cross uh, Roads book magazine, and I was reading the articles, and I saw that you were saying something. Anyway, just an informative video if you'd like to see it. Is about is about uh, Lot having sex with his daughters, and you said, well, this is kind of weird. It is weird, but if you get, uh, there's an explanation of it in the complete history of the sons, Ammon and Moab. So I'm gonna run over it as fast as possible. So this land over here, east of the Jordan, which is called Bashan and Gilead, was the where all the it was the easy life. All the crops grew well there, and this was a farming land. Israel was all mountainous. It wasn't much of a farmland. It was difficult living, but this was all the easy life. So when Lot came down, they were right here. Lot and Abraham. They were fighting over land. So the shepherds were. So Abraham said, "Pick which side you want." Lot picked the best side, the watered land, this side. He picked this side, and so he moved into this area, and Abraham moved into this area. So there was already people here, and we all knew who they were. They were the people of Sodom, Gomorrah, and what are they famous for? They're famous for sexual access, we'll say. Sexual access or sexual weirdness. Uh, Sexuality ruled. So sexuality rules in this area forever in the Bible. It never not. And it's all going to be related to Ammon and Moab and their origin, which is one of sexual, you said dysfunction. I will say sexual need. So anyway, so he moved in there. So there's already, you have this ideal of Sodom before Lot moves in here. Sodom and Gomorrah, it's a perverted land. It's a sexual land. They had two gods. They had anyway, they worshipped the fertility gods. And you probably know about that. You can look them up. They worshipped fertility gods. That's what they were all about, which involved fertility gods, and their festivals involved orgies and having illegitimate kids, and then later sacrificing those children to Baal, the ones who they didn't want. So, so Lot comes over here, righteous Lot. We have to remember, God calls him righteous because he believes God. He has faith. Because of his faith, God calls Lot righteous, and he is related. Abraham brought him into this area. It's the uh, sort of, you can say, his destiny. Lot is running this area, and Lot's going to dominate this whole area over here. So the specific story is that you were talking about. Lot, Sodom and Gomorrah is burned up, so they run away, and they're in this cave, and then the daughters get him drunk, and one sleeps with him one night, and one sleeps with him the other night, and they have children. Okay, now that's not right. But if you look at what's been going on, okay, so as far as these two sisters know, they're the only people left on planet Earth. They don't know. Everything has been scorched. Not just Sodom, but Gomorrah, and it says the surrounding cities. It's all been wiped out, and it's just, as far as they know, hey, we're Adam and Eve time. So they are going to use their sexuality as a means of survival. This is where they're going, I think, and I think because as we look at the history, you're going to see that The tribe of Ammon and Moab always use sexuality for survival. They do not use war as for survival. They do not use money for survival. They do not use their powerful strength in any way. Their weapon is sex. So when these people are wiped out, of course, there's a vacuum, a power vacuum, a population vacuum. It becomes populated by the two children of Lot, Ammon and Moab. So it fills up with these people, but there's still this uh, uh, the gods that they worship. It's about fertility because they're what they do is they're farmers. Farmers are into fertility. They don't worship the fertility gods. They're afraid that rain won't come. They will all starve to death. So that's where they're at. So the first time we're going to see, is it the first time? I believe so. The first time we're going to see an interaction between Moab and the children of Israel is the children of Israel go to Egypt, of course, 400 years, right? They come back. They're going to go into this place, and what happens? What happens is at this point there's another king there. Here's my rag. There's another king there, the king of the Amorites. The Amorites have moved in here and conquered. They're a warlike group, but they fall into the same trap as. If you move into this area, you're going to fall into the sexual. You're going to be sexually dominated, or you're going to be a sexual dominator. So they move into this area. The Amorites, not Ammonites, the Amorites move in here, and they cut out the best part of the property. So the children of Israel come around here, and what does it say about? It says the king of the Amorites is a giant. Now we have two significant giants in the Bible. One is over here, the Philistines. Of course, that's Goliath. And how is Goliath described? He's described as a warrior. He's got a helmet, a spear. It gives the weight of the spear, the size of his shield. He's a fighter. The Philistines are fighters. That's a different type. The type over here is sexuality. So what does it say about the only way the king of the Amorites is described is he sleeps on a 9-foot bed. So that is his identity. Goliath's identity was fighter. The king on this side, his identity is sleep in a big bed. He's about sexuality. That's what he's about. So when they come around here, what they're going to do is they'd say, we don't want to fight these guys because these guys, none of them like to fight. It says we don't want to go to war with them. We're going to hire Balaam to come down here and curse them. And of course, you know that story. He tries to curse them 3 times and he can't. But then later, he goes back. Balaam goes back and says, listen, I know how to solve your problem. If you give me the money, I'll solve your problem. Have your women of Moab, go to the warriors of Israel and sleep with them. And then God will be mad at them, and he will curse them because of their disobedience, and then you'll have your victory. So they go, okay. So they do that, and they go in to the camp. Just the women go in and seduce all the men. They're going we're going to overpower, not all the men, but we're going to overpower this is their army, the sexual army that moves into the camp of Israel. So what happens is God says, kill every woman of Moab that's not a virgin. It might be at a certain age, because after a certain age, there was no such thing as a virgin in Moab. So kill all the women. So you can see that there initially we got 2 things. The king of Moab sleeps in the bed. The the Moab army is an army of women. So they come around and they conquer them, right? Okay. Well, they don't conquer them. Actually, God says, do not make war with Ammon and Moab. Do not drive them out. They're not like in here. He says, drive them all out, kill every man and woman and child. Here, he says, leave them alone. They are your relatives. You need to have a relationship with them. So what this whole story is about. Here is lust. Here's carnality. Here is sexuality. There is a natural, positive relationship between the physical, sexuality, and the Christian man or the Christian woman. It's normal. It's natural. It's not to be smashed, destroyed, conquered, choked to death. Get it out of here. This is an ideal that was in the Victorian age, or not really the Victorian age, the Puritan age. Sex was considered sin, and you're only supposed to have sex to have babies. If you don't have it, if you weren't, you were sinning. That was an ideology that was dominant in Christianity for many years. So that wasn't right. That just created more problems. So we have this thing going on. So now who moves over here? On this sexual side, there's Christians, or we should say people who should be identifying with Christianity, or Israelis who are supposed to be living here. So it's half the tribe of Manasseh, the tribe of Gad, and the tribe of Reuben. The smallest tribe over here is the tribe of Reuben, which is really around closer to Sodom and Gomorrah than any of them. So Reuben was the firstborn son of Jacob. He should have been the heir. He should have been the princely of the tribes. He should have been the prince, the guy, but he wasn't. Why? Because of sexual impropriety. He had sex with his father's concubine, one of his brother's mothers, and so he was kicked out as far as being the leader of Israel. And so following these, there's always these patterns. Every tribe has a pattern. Every country has a pattern. Reuben has a pattern of sensuality. They decide to move over here, right in ex-Sodom and Gomorrah territory. And they're the smallest of them all, who should have been the greatest of all. So now you have Reuben over here. The sexual failure is in this side. So, okay, so some other ones. There are other examples along the way, let's say of David. And as we go along, we're going to see that there was peace between these people, basically. Sometimes they would get these guys would become too powerful. And when they became too powerful, they didn't try to conquer Israel. They tried to dominate them sexually. So we're going to see how that happened. Now, David was at peace with Moab and Ammon. So what happened? The king of Ammon died. No, that's Moab. No, that's right. Ammon. The king of Ammon died. The king of Ammon died. So David sent an emissary over here to say, hey, I was at peace with your father. I'm going to be at peace with you. We're cousins. Peace. Okay? Peace emissaries. They come over, and the thing about them is they're always suspicious of domination. That's why originally they didn't want the children of Israel coming through here. It says, don't come through here, because they were suspicious. Once again, they're suspicious. They don't want to be dominated. Okay. So what they do is they cut off the guys' beards. They got beards. and they have their clothes. So they cut off their beards. That's a sign of humiliation to a man in those days. If you didn't have your beard, you were, you're like a kid. That was a big deal. They cut off their beards to humiliate them. Then they cut off their clothes. They wear the skirt things, right, at the waist level, so their private parts are exposed. So they're going, it's a sexual humiliation. They don't go to war with them. They say, you come over here, we're going to humiliate you. So David raises an army and goes over to attack them, to straighten them out. So what he does with the children of Ammon later, when he gets all the men after he conquers them. Well, this is what they do too. The children of Ammon don't go to war. They hire somebody else to go to war. They hire the armies of Aram. They don't like to fight. These guys have a different agenda of domination and their sexuality. When it comes to a fight, hire the mercenaries of Aram. The mercenaries of Aram fail, so these guys basically surrender. So what happens? David lines up all the men. It says he measures them. He lines, get in a line, every man of Ammon. And I forget if it's every other one or every third man he kills. He goes, A, B, C, D. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead. Kills them, executes them right there. Why? They become too populated, too dominant, too many. He's not, if this would have been the Amalekites, would have killed all of them. Or some of these other tribes that were told to destroy. But no, he just thinned them out, thinned the ranks out. So that's one of the stories of Ammon. And I'm going to try to cut this short as possible to answer your question, not bore you to death. You have every story you're going to have with Ammon is the same thing: sexuality, sexuality, sexuality. And I think I've covered quite a few of them. We're going to do one more to show about how they're dominate though. So Solomon married a Ammonite woman. He married all kind of women, but he married an Ammonite woman, and she brought into Israel the temple of Chemosh. Maybe it's a Moab woman, but one or the other, and brought it right into Israel. This influence of this god came right in there, and they started. And what was the key to these guys? Temple prostitutes. This is how they recruited people for their god and their church. It says it right there in the book of Kings. As soon as one of these women, not men, not a general, but a woman, moves into Jerusalem, she starts using sexuality as a weapon to deteriorate the inner structure of Israel. So then what happens with her child? Her child is Rehoboam. The next king that follows Solomon is his mother is a Moabite, and sexuality begins to infest and infect. And sexuality is infecting them. I don't really should say that because sexuality is proper, but when it moves in, it's when it starts to dominate. Then, well, there's problems. So there is one person that shows the proper relationship between Moab and Israel, and that is Ruth. The book of Ruth, the person of Ruth. She is an outcast from Moab. She goes into Israel looking for, not looking to dominate, looking to go into subjection and looking to be cared for. So she moves into there. She finds Boaz, who is a direct descendant of David. Boaz, Jesse, David. And this relationship here, this is the only positive relationship you'll find in the whole Bible between Moab, Ammon, and Israel. So what does she do? She wants to come under his protection. So when they have the harvest, which is the, I didn't think of it, this is the fertility thing. When they're harvesting, it's a fertility situation. It's a harvesting situation. In her culture, what she would do in the past, she would go over, Boaz is sleeping, she'd just go over there and get on the guy. She'd just get over there, and like they did with this army, we're going to dominate you. The women just, their sexuality, they just overpowered the men. They couldn't resist it. She did not do that. She laid at his feet. She's like, I'm in submission to you. So sexuality has to be in submission, and then it's in a proper relationship. As long as it doesn't get carried away. If it gets carried away, then you start killing every third guy. Cut it down, not destroy it, but don't let it dominate your life, the Christian life, anybody's life. When it dominates, it perverts, and then when it perverts, you get places like Sodom and Gomorrah. So, so that's kind of the history of Ammon, and if you want to see it in this terms, is sexuality and Christianity. How do they? What's that relation supposed to be like? It's supposed to be a good relationship, according to God. He says, don't destroy them, be friends with them. Okay, so there are other stories, but we'll leave it at this because you've got your time, and I appreciate it if you're able to listen to this. Okay, thanks.